All right, guys, welcome to the first lesson in packet number 6 on the axial skeleton. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how the skeleton is divided up. So if we look at the entire human skeleton, we'll start off in black here. We have 206 bones. And that gets divided into two divisions. So we call the first division the axial skeleton. And we call the second division the appendicular skeleton. Appendicular. You think about the axis of something, like the axis of the earth, it's the center. And so the axial skeleton is all the bones that lie along the center line. And we're going to have 80 of these. 80. The appendicular skeleton is going to be your arms, your legs, and the bones that attach them to the axial skeleton. Here we have 126. And this is the only time we're going to talk about the appendicular skeleton. So that we can get to more body systems, we do half one of the systems. So we're just going to do axial. So we then divide the axial down into, I'm going to do some color coding here. So we have the skull with 28 bones. We have the vertebra. We'll talk about the individual. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. And then we have the ribs and the sternum. The ribs and the sternum. The appendicular skeleton gets subdivided then into the pelvic girdle, G-I-R-D, I gotta fix that, G-I-R-D. Try that again. And the pectoral girdle. So the pelvic girdle is going to be the pelvis, the upper legs, lower legs, ankles, feet, and phalanges. And the pectoral girdle is going to be the clavicle, the scapula, the upper arm, lower arm, wrists, and hands, phalanges, metacarpals, metatarsals. So this is the part we're going to leave off the table, but this is what we're going to focus on. So for the skull, we divide that down into two further divisions. Actually, I'm going to put 3. We have the cranial bones. Another word for this is the calvarium, C-A-L-V-A-R-I-U-M. These are the bones that make up the top of the head. And then we have, there are 8 of these. We have the facial bones that make up your face. There are 14 of these. Well, what's left? Because 14 and 8 don't make 28. Well, we have so we're going to call this like miscellaneous. You have your bones in your ear, the malleus, incus, and stapes. You have 6 of those, and you have a bone called the hyoid, H-Y-O-I-D. And it exists in your throat. You can feel it if you kind of palpate. It wraps around your larynx, and it provides protection for your larynx. So with the vertebra, we're going to divide that into 5 categories. We have, first we have the cervical. And these terms should be familiar from your med terms list. So cervical, we know cervix, cervico, or cervix is always neck. So we're dealing with the ones in the neck. We have the thoracic. We have the lumbar. of the low back. We have the sacrum, and we have the coccyx, C-O-C-C-Y-X. There's a little trick for remembering how many cervical, thoracic, and lumbar you have. The number correlates very nicely to when you eat breakfast, lunch, and supper. So maybe you eat breakfast at 7, we have 7 cervical. Thoracic, we have 12. Lumbar, we have 5. So do you eat breakfast at 7, lunch at 12, and supper at 5? You're in good shape if you do. Got 1 sacrum and 1 coccyx. The coccyx is actually 3 to 5, but those are fused together. So then with the ribs and sternum, with the sternum, we have 1 of those, but the ribs, we can divide that down into true ribs, false ribs, and floating ribs. So we've got true, false, and floating. And we have, these exist in pairs. So you have 7 pairs of true ribs for a total of 14. You've got 3 pair of false ribs for a total of 6. And you've got 2 pair of floating ribs for a total of 4. So let's do over here 6 and 1. So if my math works out, all of these added together should add up to 80. Now, not only are we going to learn the location of the bones, but we're also going to learn the landmarks of the bones. And so a couple of definitions written down right here off the bat. 2 of the words I'm going to be using quite a bit. So if I say landmarks, that is an area of the bone that has a unique shape. It has a unique shape, maybe it has a projection. And we learned these in the last chapter. We learned what a fossa was, we learned where the foramen was, a trochanter. And so we're going to learn all of those landmarks of the bones. Another term that I'm going to be using a lot is articulate. So articulate is when 2 bones come together, or the area where 2 bones come together. And what we're going to see is that often these landmarks are tied to areas of articulation. So articulate is the verb. Articulation would be another part of speech. You can ask Mrs. Clevenger. But this kind of gives us an overview. So we're actually gonna go in this order. We're gonna start with cranial, and then we're gonna do facial. We're not gonna do much with these. We're gonna go into the vertebra, and we'll finish with ribs and sternum. All right, so that'll get us started. Cranial bones coming up next. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.